like Dr. Frankenstein. New life is created from discarded bits and pieces. This is the domain of Rowland Emett, the ditchling tinkerer.
It has just been fully restored after lying in storage for almost 15 years. It is an example of English art and English offbeat humour at their quintessential best. It is the largest and, in his own view, the best artwork by the eccentric, irrepressible Englishman, Rowland Emett.
In Battersea Park, cartoonist Emmet sees his craziest dream come to life and calls it Neptune just in time as the first passengers arrive at Oyster Creek Station.
Rowland Emett shot to international fame 60 years ago when he created his now famous train line, the Far Tottering and Oyster Creek Railway, for the Festival of Britain at Battersea Park in 1951. It carried over 2 million passengers at the festival and earned its construction costs back in less than 3 weeks. Rowland Emett is one of England's greatest modern-day artists. Born in 1906, he studied art in Birmingham before becoming a draftsman during the Second World War, working on the design of aircraft, including the now legendary Lancaster bomber. When not contributing to the design of English warplanes, Emmet began to create intricately detailed, humorous cartoons. These would usually depict wildly imaginative flying machines, trains and other machinery that seemed to echo Victorian architecture and practicality, whilst at the same time conjuring up a magical world where machines were capable of helping people do just about anything. His cartoons were quickly published by Punch magazine and after a short while earned him the position of resident cartoonist at the magazine. But when the Festival of Britain organisers commissioned him to make some of his machines for real, Emmett's life changed forever. After the success of the Far Tottering and Oyster Creek Railway at the festival, he was commissioned to create the Honeywell Forget-Me-Not computer, the Slumberland Hushabye bed, and a series of other whimsical, light-hearted pieces of art whose purpose was almost entirely, quite simply, to make people smile. Nottingham's Victoria Centre is the home of Emmett's specially commissioned rhythmical time fountain built in 1974, whilst the town of Basildon possesses the Owl and the Pussycat, an elaborate and intricately detailed clock cum fountain cum artwork built in 1981 that now resides in the town's Eastgate shopping centre.
Away with sweeping and away with brushing and away with dirty carpets.
Perhaps most famous of Emmett's work was the commission by United Artists to design and create the harebrained machines of inventor Caractacus Potts in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, the 1968 film based on Ian Fleming's phantasmagorical children's story.
Jeremy?
Oh, good.
Today, many of Emmett's pieces are housed in permanent museum displays around the world. The Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. has owned the SS Pussy Willow II since 1980. And Emmett's Borg Warner vintage car of the future resides at the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry. The Ontario Science Centre in Canada owns the largest collection of Emmett machines, and there are a handful of his creations in private hands in the UK and elsewhere too. The Far Tottering and Oyster Creek Railway was reprised by Emmet in 1984 when he built the last of his machines, or things, as he always preferred to call them. A Quiet Afternoon in the Cloud Cuckoo Valley is the largest of his works, and is in fact made up of 8 separate machines that together tell a single coherent story. It depicts the tale of a pleasure trip on the Far Tottering and Oyster Creek Railway. The central feature is a train called Wild Goose, driven by an ingenious driver who toasts tea cakes on the firebox as the train trundles along. Behind him is the first-class carriage, occupied by what appears to be a lady of some considerable refinement, whose grandson is busying himself catching butterflies with a net. The rear of the train is an open wagon occupied by a railway attendant, playing birdsong through an old gramophone player to accompany the journey. Along the way, the train passes various unusual and entertaining sights. At Cowparsley Meadow, a farmer plays his harp soothingly to his herd of cows, who nod their heads in appreciation. There is a large water wheel that turns timelessly, its brass cups beaten and misshapen from years of use. And in a secluded dell, there is a beautiful flowering tree, on top of which sits a clock, originally intended as the focal point of the whole piece. At Shrimphaven Sands, a fisherman can be seen out at sea, hauling in a net, in which rather surprisingly he appears to have caught a mermaid. On the beach, a bathing hut is occupied by an elderly gentleman dressed in full-length Victorian swimwear, who dives dramatically into the water from time to time. As Wild Goose continues on its journey past Twittering Woods, an ornithologist is seen cycling along with his camera. He is disguised as a tree and has done such a good job of hiding from his quarry that a bird has chosen to make its nest in his bicycle lamp. Finally, for those passengers on Wild Goose whose wishes and dreams are not yet met, there is a wishing well, complete with a typical Emmet-esque leaking bucket. An interesting fact about other Emmet sculptures in which he had added a wishing well is that they have raised as much as £250,000 for charity over the past 10 years or so. Constructing his machines out of discarded kettles, drain pipes, lampshades and any other appropriately shaped paraphernalia that he picked up in antique shops, Emmet's ingenuity was unbounded, and the level of detail he injected into each of his creations was something that audiences worldwide have been smiling about for over 50 years. A Quiet Afternoon in the Cloud Cuckoo Valley was originally commissioned as a landmark clock and was destined to adorn a new shopping area in Basildon, England. But by the time the artwork was completed in 1984, those plans had changed. It was bought instead by the present owner and was not exhibited until 1992 in Spitalfields Market, London. Sadly, Emmet himself had passed away just 2 years earlier, so never saw his greatest masterpiece exhibited in public. When its time at Spitalfields came to an end, A Quiet Afternoon in the Cloud Cuckoo Valley was again put into what was thought to be safe storage. But in 1999 it was stolen by some enterprising thieves from a warehouse in Hertfordshire. It was sold by the thieves to a scrap metal dealer who became suspicious and alerted the police, so it was thankfully recovered. The scrap metal dealer had paid just £100 for it, at a time when the artwork was thought to be worth closer to £250,000. Today, A Quiet Afternoon in the Cloud Cuckoo Valley is refurbished, renovated and rejuvenated. It has undergone a comprehensive restoration by sculptor, artist and engineer Andy Hasler. Andy's own paintings and sculptures are regularly on display in galleries throughout the UK. He has twice had work accepted for the summer exhibition at the Royal Academy in London. He is uniquely well suited to restore Emmet's marvellous machines, as he also has an engineering pedigree, having spent his early career as a restorer of Rolls-Royce cars at P&A Woods, the only officially authorised restorers of Rolls-Royce cars in the UK. Andy has repaired and replaced numerous parts on the machines, repainted just about every centimetre of the work, and has overseen the installation of a brand new digital control system. The result? A quiet afternoon in the cloud Cuckoo Valley is now in as good a condition as when Rowland Emett last saw it, if not a little better. A Quiet Afternoon in the Cloud Cuckoo Valley is Rowland Emmett's greatest creation and has been exhibited only once before. It is imbued with Emmett's own fantastical sense of English whimsy and humour, not to say bewildering attention to detail. And it is part of a rich and glorious legacy left to the world by one of England's finest modern-day artists.